Hi, my name is Bradley Murray. I'm a teacher at the Lessavon School. I have been teaching for 15 years, and my path to teaching was not the traditional one. I was more into engineering at the at the UE level, and because my degree is in maths and electronics. And as life goes on, the path we decide to choose might not always be the one for us. Unfortunately, when I finished school, I end up looking to decide where I can go, what I can do, and because of a past injury that I would have had, well, a couple of years before, I could not get into the field that I was passionate for, which was engineering. The good thing about it is that teaching was always in my blood. And my mother being a teacher as well from the Granny Adams School, she also encouraged me, how about why not try teaching? You had always been teaching children in the neighborhood. When I was at CP school, I also encouraged and helped some of my teammates from basketball team to help them with their CXCs. And then going through life at any level, which it could be BCC, UE, Polytechnic, at any level of teaching, I was always there to help and to teach, just to simplify concept a little easier to get people to understand the questions, the words, sorry. So eventually I went into teaching. Quickly fell in love with it. There's always a concept where everyone believes that math is one of the hardest things to do, to understand. There's so much different things to have to remember. But I always found it easy to explain, to break down, to simplify it, to make it a lot easier for you to understand, find little tricks to get you to remember them. And this is how this book came up. And for me, I wanted the book to be fun. I wanted the book to be exciting for kids. So I came up with the concept Mass Playground Workbook for the Caribbean. And I tried to use a lot of colors. I tried to use fun concepts to help you to get across mass and what it stands for. Now, the book is for the level of secondary schools. It ranges from first form to fifth. It allows you can start with the basics, which is addition, subtractions, and run you through all the topics to get you ready for CSE. The key to understanding maths is that maths is a stepping stone. When you understand the foundation, when you understand the addition and subtraction, when you understand your algebra, you can always apply it to the other topics that you would need, like the functions, gradient, simplifying certain little expressions. So it will always use the foundation to help you understand other concepts better. So I found that when we use our math books in the schools, one, they don't have you have to use several different books to get you to understand one topic instead of putting everything in one book. A lot of the books are written into 3 and 4 books that you have to make sure you have to get the full sequence in order to teach or understand certain things, to break it up, to separate them. And then kids got a tendency of not understanding that everything can be used. You have to pull from any topic to help you to answer certain questions. And when they're faced with CXC questions, they find a challenge that they don't understand how these questions what the question is asking. They don't understand what direction to go in. So with this book, I broke down the questions into a simpler form. It's a workbook, so I broke it down to have examples. You have spacing to put your work in, which is always important. It's a must. If you get the answer wrong, you have the work in, you can still get marks. So for me, having space in the book to do your work in, there you have multiple questions you can practice. You have graph paper in the book. You have topics like statistics that you would need to have additional graph paper to draw on. to get the questions, to space to help you to construct your pie charts. Everything is designed to have a space so that you could practice these concepts. Math is a practice, is a doing subject, and you need to basically use tools to get this to help you to get the questions done. When it comes to another reason why I chose to do everything in one book is to help me to show the children, that everything that we use from the beginning, from first form, from first, second, and third, can be applied in fourth, and fifth. When you're doing a CXC exam, your first paper is fractions. So in the book, you break down all the concept of fractions, and then you show them how CXC will bring their questions. And they provide other questions to give you more example, more practice, because at the end of the day, you need to practice. Once you understand the concepts and you can apply them, you get a better understanding of the topic and of maths. And you'll go into the exam feeling more confident, to feel that you're ready to do the exam instead of being so nervous and not thinking that you have enough practice in. This book it took me 5 years to produce this book. It was supposed to be 2 books. One's supposed to be a textbook, which is on the way, and the other one's supposed to be a workbook. The initial stages was the textbook. The textbook, I have written it by hand first. I wrote out two 5-subject books where I draw all the graphs, created all the questions based on the areas that I see in other books, and based on what students will come and tell me, or sir, there's certain things they don't understand, and when I ask what you don't understand, and they look and try to understand what best questions I can to use to help them to understand, I started to write and compile a whole set of worksheets for my kids. And the worksheets help them in lessons, it helped them at school, and it helped them to understand a little bit easier. Another thing that's very important for our kids is to have them to learn on their own, instead of spoon feeding them and giving them everything they will need. If you could have a book where you can follow the examples, you can apply them to the questions, take your time and work through, and then progressively, slowly, let the questions build to be a more difficult, more challenging, just to get the concept across. So the worksheets that I have created, I test them on the kids first. I test them to see how they would respond to them on their own before I interject and guide them. And once I realized these worksheets were suited, I put them inside the book and I started to compile them. So before I was about to finish the textbook, a need came across for a workbook in the schools. So I put that one on pause and I did this. So when COVID came, I was already halfway through. With the downtime that I had, it allowed me to sit down and really compile a workbook suited for secondary schools at all levels, from first form straight to fifth. There are questions that can be done. There are questions that will help them understand that CXC math starts from first form. No, it doesn't start from fifth. It starts from first form. And you have to apply everything that you have been taught. So that is how the book really came about. To write it wasn't that difficult to write. The hardest thing was to teach yourself how to use Microsoft to type it up. So typing up everything was based on me, choosing the colors, the layout, the information, creating questions, looking at multiple CXC papers and trying to come up with your own questions that similar to what CXC will want, but just push the envelope a bit so that you would get algebra. 'Cause algebra is a big topic, and it can come in any form. It can come in area, it can come in volume, it could come in matrices, it could come in any format. So I try to put algebra, and algebra is one of the more challenging topics for kids. So I try to put that in different areas of the book so that you will get accustomed to seeing it. So the book is geared up to help you to get through a CSE. It's a good tool that you can use, a great resource to add for extra questions you will need. And instead of you having to go to multiple books, you have everything in one. You can go back. You can see your progress in certain areas. You can see how they can be applied to deeper in the book with more challenging questions. And I try to lay it out different so that you can see it going from going from an easier format to more challenging questions. So if you take a look at inside the book, you have solutions in the back of the book. You try to put some color. We have our graph papers inside so that you don't have to go looking for graph paper. Everything is in the book. And we know our kids. Our kids are careless and they misplace everything. I like to use color to make it fun, to make it easier on the eyes. I try not to put too much information in because something that can overwhelm a child. So I try to put enough space in it, try to lay it out, try to make it inviting to get the children, to get students to come in and do the questions on their own. I put in all the rules that you will need, spacing, the construction, and a lot of our textbooks that we use in primary school tends to leave out certain things. They will just give you examples how to get them done, but you don't have any way to practice on your own. So I thought about everything. I made sure, like for construction, we normally in school you just go through them on the board, explaining how to do all the angles. In the workbook, I made sure I went through, I explained, I give you an opportunity to practice, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I also put angles in there, and like I also teach you how to use a protractor so that you know how to read the protractor, how to measure using the protractor so that you have practice. Because when you go through certain things, most of the time, even though we teach them, children got a tendency to forget them because they don't have books there to really allow you to really practice these things. And when we go on to transformation, transformation is a big topic in CSE. There are 4 different subtopics underneath transformations. You have reflections, we have enlargements, we have rotations, we have different types of reflections as well. So I put everything in there so that you can get practice, because most of the books that we have do not. I also include questions that you can analyze and answer questions. I have things that you could just draw inside the book, and there's enough questions similar to how CSE will bring them, just so that you get practice, just to make things a little easier for you. So when you get in the exam, you're not stunned, you're not surprised, because you'll be able to what you have seen and what you have practiced in the book, you can apply to CSE in the exam. And at the end of the day, when you get an exam, on the exam conditions, and you see this thick paper coming at you with a lot of space and everything in it, and you're clueless on what to do. But with the book, with the spacing in there, with the questions laid out similar how CSE would bring them, it kind of make it a little easy for you. Like, okay, this is just another exercise for me to do. You tend to be a little calmer, a little easier to get through the questions. My students, my lesson students, and some students from Lesser Vaughan School who have purchased the book from me, they were able to get through quite easily with the exam. Students who I taught in Nevis, once he got the book, he was able to, as I do lessons with him, he was able to go through the book. He was able to go back from the initial stages back up to the more challenging questions, and he was able to end up with a grade 2. And a lot of students who use the book always come back and tell me the book was a great help. But again, the book was basically compile off of worksheets that I would have constantly give them. So this is one thing I can say is something that is proven, it helps, and it will help a child to understand maths a lot easier than some of the books that we would have used in or the older books. Instead of having to purchase 3 or 4 books for the syllabus, you have everything in one book. It's kind of thick, it's pretty, and it helps. It's inviting. I have parents who bought the book for their kids for Christmas, and children saw the book, sit down, and started to work on the book on their own. They started to go through, they started to practice the questions, to check the answers in the back. They went online and started to teach, and the mother was shocked. So based on the experience that the feedback I've given from parents, their children tend to use the book heavily to understand what they're doing at school. They use it alongside what they're given at school. Some schools don't have recent up-to-date maths books, so they will use this just to help them at home. And then with the online now, it's kind of difficult to give students work. Some children might not have printers to print them off. But as I told you before, maths is a doing subject, and you have to practice. And if everything is in one book, you can practice quite easily. You know where you left off. You know where you can go back to get extra help. So it's a great tool for teaching. And the topics are broken down into a simpler form so that you can apply them to for further topics in the book. So to obtain the book, you could get it through me. My page on IG is Masshead. I teach at Les Savon School, and you can also, when you go on IG, you can also message me. You can also, all the information is on IG, Masshead, and you can find me or contact me at Les Savon School. So I'm easy to find. The books are also, I'm also trying to get them in Trinidad, so that's soon something that's going to happen, and Jamaica. And some are inside of Nevis as well. So it's a book that children across the Caribbean have been using. They have been getting good results. They have been singing praises about the book. So it's just a matter of trying to get them inside the secondary schools so that we could improve maths across the island. So children will have something to use that they will enjoy using for themselves. They enjoy practicing the various topics. They have answers at the back. The questions are broken down to make things simpler. So it's a powerful tool that can be used.